हेलो एवरीवन। आज की वीडियो में हम कर रहे हैं HPRCA बायोलॉजी टीचर जो एग्जाम की आंसर की है उसको हम डिस्कस करने वाले हैं। पहला क्वेश्चन जो आया था हमारे एग्जाम में वो था, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग स्ट्रक्चरल फीचर्स ऑफ एन एंटीबॉडी इनेबल फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी बिटवीन द एंटीजन बाइंडिंग आर्म एंड द स्टेम ऑफ द मॉलिक्यूल। ये रीजन कौन सा है? हिंज रीजन। सेकेंड क्वेश्चन जो आया था, which enzyme is widely used in PCR because it remain active at high temperature. High temperature पे कौन सा enzyme active रहता है? That is Taq polymerase. Next question, which of the following statement correctly distinguish between antibiotics और vaccines? Antibiotic और vaccines क्या है? कौन सी स्टेटमेंट अच्छे से डिस्क्राइब करेंगे? दैट इज एंटीबायोटिक्स किल माइक्रोब्स एंड वैक्सीन स्टिमुलेट इम्यूनिटी। फोर्थ क्वेश्चन हमारा है, which statement best explain the effect of pH on enzyme activity in plant cell? तो एंजाइम है, इनकी एक ऑप्टिमम पीएच होती है फॉर मैक्सिमम एक्टिविटी। Which statement accurately reflects the difference between cosmopolitan and endemic plant species? Cosmopolitan होता है that is present everywhere, और इसका आंसर भी है cosmopolitan species have wide global distribution while endemic species are restricted to specific region. Which scenario best illustrates a negative feedback mechanism in carbon cycle within a temperate forest ecosystem? So इसका आंसर जो हमारा है that is increased atmospheric carbon dioxide stimulate plant growth which enhance carbon sequestration in biomass. Which climate condition is most stable for sugarcane cultivation? Sugarcane cultivation के लिए warm, humid climate with adequate rainfall. Eighth question, in the cycon type of canal system, which system of cycon, which of the following structure is lined by conocyte? तो ये कौन सा स्ट्रक्चर है हमारा? radial canal. In silviculture based energy farming, fast growing tree species are cultivated because they are provide renewable fuel within short cycle. Next question, the main function of integumentary system at the digital tips ये किस लिए होती है? प्रोटेक्शन और सपोर्ट के लिए. Which of the following statement correctly distinguish accessory floral organ? accessory और essential. essential हमारे जरूरी, accessory जो उसकी accessories है, बाकी accessory organ are sterile, और whereas आपके essential organs are reproductive. accessory organs generally sepals और petals, और essential आपके organs जो reproductive organ जैसे style, stigma, ovary, anther, filament, ये आपके essential organs हैं. Which of the following method can reduce global warming? That is afforestation. Which group of algae is the source of industrially and commercially important product like agar and carrageenan? That is the red algae. Which statement best describes a coenzyme? कोएंजाइम को कौन सी स्टेटमेंट अच्छे से डिस्क्राइब करती है कि a non-protein organic molecule required for enzyme activity. Platelet count is clinically significant for assessing bleeding disorder. 16th, medical team is developing guideline for ESR testing in remote clinic. Which recommendation will most improve sample integrity? तो sample integrity को इनमें से कौन सा जो ऑप्शन है वो करेगा? That is immediate processing after collection. 17. A researcher transfers DNA fragment from an agarose gel into a nylon membrane and then hybridize with a labeled probe. ये कौन सी टेक्निक है? ये टेक्निक हमारी साउदर्न ब्लॉटिंग है. और 18th, why does the xylem become the chief supporting tissue in stem undergoing secondary growth? इसका आंसर जो है that is presence of abundant lignified cell in secondary xylem. 19th, Hpca bankruptcy primarily causes which of the following condition in humans? ये cause करती है lymphatic filariasis. In the preparation of blood smear, the angle between spreader slide and the base slide should typically be maintained at what degree? That is 30 to 45. Which biochemical cycle does not involve a significant atmospheric component and depict elemental transfer between rock, soil, and living organism? That is the phosphorus cycle. Which of the following processes generate the force required for upward movement of water through xylem in tall plants? Tall plants में water कैसे move करता है? जो major role है that is the transpiration pull created by water loss from leaves. 23rd, development of embryo sac from only one functional megaspore. One functional megaspore से development of embryo है that is the monosporic development. A researcher mutate histone H1 in plant cell. What will be the effect of this on chromatin structure? तो क्या होगा chromatin structure mutate हो गया है वो आपके जनरली बाइंडिंग के लिए या उसमें काम आता है कॉम्पैक्टेशन में तो जब वो म्यूटेट करेगा तो देन it reduces compactation of nucleosome into higher order structures. 25th question. Which of the following tissue are included in the ground tissue system in plants? All tissue except epidermis and vascular bundles. ये आंसर की में दिया है. Which of the following pathway allow water movement through cell wall without crossing plasma membrane? Cell wall से कौन सा pathway है जिससे water movement होगी? That is apoplastic pathway. What is the main function of cuticle on the plant epidermis? Prevention of excessive loss of water from the disease known as African sleeping sickness is transmitted to human by the bite of tsetse fly. A researcher observes a sharp decline in the activity of plant enzyme at high substrate concentration. Despite optimal pH and temperature, which phenomena is most likely responsible for the observation? तो इसका आंसर है ए ऑप्शन सबस्ट्रेट इनहिबिशन ड्यू टू एक्सेसिव सबस्ट्रेट बाइंडिंग. 30th, a bacterial artificial chromosome is preferred over standard plasmid vector when cloning a very large DNA fragment because it accommodates larger DNA insert. 31st question, which of the following correctly represent sequential flow of water in cyconoid canal system of cycon? तो then firstly ये ostia से जाएगा incurrent canal, then prosopiles, radial canals, apopiles, spongiocele on osculum. So C option is correct option. Why is double fertilization considered unique to angiosperm? Because it includes syngamy and triple fusion events. 33. Black rot of crucifer is caused by Xanthomonas campestris. A patient from an endemic area present with gastrointestinal discomfort and blood in stool, laboratory test confirms encyclostoma duodenum infection. Which aspect of life history is most critical for understanding patient's clinical symptom? तो इसका ऑप्शन ए है द पैरासाइट्स ability to attach to intestinal mucosa and feed on blood. 35th question. Which of the following hormone secreted by corpus luteum directly helps prepare the uterus for implantation after ovulation? तो वो हार्मोन है हमारा प्रोजेस्टेरॉन. Which reason best explain why C4 plants are favored in tropical grassland ecosystem with high light intensity and periodic drought? So C4 plant minimize photorespiration or increase water use efficiency. 37th question. Which of the following structures is formed when a primary oocyte is surrounded by a single layer of flat follicular cell? That is the primordial follicule. The use of dash while walking outdoor is an effective measure to prevent hookworm infection. That is the B option, that is footwear. During the contraction cycle of skeletal muscle, which of the following event directly cause myosin head to detach from actin? Binding of ATP to myosin head. After ovulation, degeneration of corpus luteum ultimately form which of the following ovarian follicle? That is the corpus albicans. Which bacterial plasmid is commonly modified and used as a vector for gene transfer into plant? That is Ti plasmid. Read the given assertion and reasoning and select the appropriate option. Cyclin B degradation essential for completion of mitosis in plant cell. Reason: cyclin B degradation activate separase allowing sister chromatid separation. So both are correct and correct explanation है. So A option is correct. A factory release sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. Which ecological changes likely to happen in future? That is the D option. Decline in sensitive species due to air pollution. During sexual reproduction arousal, the secretion of bulbourethral glands directly helps sperm survival by performing which of the following function? That is neutralizing urethral acidity. Which statement about bright field microscope is correct? It is the A option is correct. It is commonly used to observe stained specimens. Which term describe an organism that harbors a parasite only for short transition period, usually during the development of parasite? That is the B option, intermediate host. A botanist observed that an enzyme displays decreased Vmax but unchanged Km when an inhibitor is present. What is most likely explanation? The inhibitor is non-competitive. Which structure is a modification of integumentary system found at the tips of digit in many vertebrates? So इसका आंसर है claws. What is the process called when toxin mercury moves polluted water into fish and then into human through different level of food chain? That process is biomagnification. Which of the following secondary metabolite is used as a drug in medicine? That is curcumin. A scientist finds a cell with high level of muramic acid and teichoic acid in its wall but no lipid content. How should the scientist best classify this organism? That is gram-positive bacteria. Which of the following immature stage is characteristic of incomplete metamorphosis in insect? That stage is nymph. C option is correct. What is typical symptom of diabetic that often leads to its diagnosis? Frequent urination. The primary hormone that is deficient or not used effectively in diabetes is insulin. Consider a scenario where a bird species with poorly developed digital tips migrate to rocky environment. Predict the likely evolutionary change in integumentary system over generation. Development of strong claws. That is B option is correct. Match the algal class with their dominant pigment. Algal class Basidiophyceae आपकी ये किसके साथ मैच होगी हमारे क्लोरोफिल ए होगा बीटा कैरोनॉइड एंड xanthophyll बी ऑप्शन रोडोफाइसी रोडोफाइसी में होगा आर फाइक्रोएथिन डोमिनेंट पिगमेंट एंड xanthophycy you have chlorophyll A beta carotene or xanthophyll chlorophycy chlorophyll A chlorophyll B and carotenes so B option is correct. Unlike cartilaginous fishes, bony fishes possess a swim bladder to aid in buoyancy control. Which hormone released by hypothalamus primarily regulates the secretion of gonadotropin from anterior pituitary? That is gonadotropin releasing hormone. Which of the following traditional use of Enzardia carta indica have been validated by modern pharmacological studies? That is A. Anti-diabetic activity. The structure that cover and protect the gills in bony fish is called the operculum. Which property of plant cell allows single living cell to regenerate into a complete plant under suitable cultural condition? That is totipotency. B option is correct. Which combination of hormone is likely to promote seed germination over overcoming dormancy? That is increased gibberellin and decreased abscisic acid. A 45-year-old with a history of intravenous drug use test indicate positive for HBsAg and anti-HBc IgM, आपकी antibody. What does this indicate about timing and nature of infection? It's early acute hepatitis infection. 64 question. Why is UVB range considered highly harmful to human? Because it damages skin cell and causes genetic mutation. A human embryo possesses an XY chromosome complement but lack functional SRY gene on the Y chromosome. Which of the following developmental outcome is expected? It is development of ovaries and Mullerian duct. Which hormone is responsible for increasing blood calcium level by stimulating osteoclast activity, that is parathyroid hormone? Read the following assertion and reasoning and answer and, and choose the correct option. Assertion is some aquatic macrophyte act as bioindicator of heavy metal pollution. These plants uh, accumulate heavy metal mainly in their stem. Assertion is correct and reason is incorrect. Why? Which of the following female condition can directly cause infertility by preventing meeting of sperm and ovum? That is obstruction of uterine tubes. Which of the following statement is not true about fluid mosaic model of plasma membrane? इसमें आपका A है, it describes cell membrane as a dynamic and flexible structure. That is true. Some protein and lipid have carbohydrate attached to them and forming glycoprotein and glycolipids. That is also true, and it was proposed by Singer and Nicholson. So answer D, that it stress that phospholipid in plasma membrane are static. It's dynamic in nature, not static in nature. That's why the D option is incorrect. 70. Phonetic classification primarily depends upon the overall similarity of observable characteristic. How is the mesophyll tissue arranged in isobilateral leaf? It is undifferentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma. An ancestral fossil reveals a primitive vertebrate with a two-chambered heart and single circulation loop. Which vertebrate group does this organism most likely belong to? It belongs to fishes, representing an early vertebrate stage with single loop circulation. In mammal, bird, and reptile, you will have double circulatory system. 73rd, which statement is not true about microbes? Microbes are used in food industry. Yes, they are used in brewing, bakery. B option, microbes are useful in wastewater treatment plants. Yes, that is true. Microbes do not have any nutrition value. That is absolutely wrong. So C option is correct. A health official is tasked with reduced rickettsial disease incident in an urban slum. Which multifaceted strategy is most likely to succeed based on the epidemiology of rickettsia? So that is the option, combining vector control, public education, and rapid case management. Which characteristic makes hydrocarbon from plant useful as renewable energy source? What is the answer? They can release energy during combustion. So D option is correct. So this is all about the answer key. Thank you. I hope you like the video.